All right, so the components. We'll use these previous designs as examples for our lesson about components. So first, let's start by defining what components are. So components are essentially usable elements that you can use in your design. So they act kind of like a template for your repeatable elements. So let me create a component real quick and I'll show you how they work in practice. So we can take this button, for example. So I'm double clicking into my header until I select my button, and then I'm clicking Option and dragging out of the frame to place it anywhere outside. And to create a component, I can either have a frame selected and then go over to this diamond here and then click Create Component, or I can use a shortcut Option, Command, and K. And that's my frame will change into a component with filled rectangular diamonds. And it will become purple. The thing we just created, it's called master component. So ideally, you want to put all your master components on a separate page and not use them in your designs. All master components will be displayed by this filled diamond shape. So make sure you don't want to use your master components. You want to use your dynamic components that are created from your master. So what I mean by that, master components act as a main template for other components that you create in Figma. So when you make change to a master component, all of the components that were created from this singular, dynamic frame will automatically change to reflect the changes made on this main master component. So let me just create a component out of this master. So to do it, I'm just clicking on Option and dragging out from this main component. And this is my dynamic component. And you'll see by this hollow diamond shape that this in fact is my dynamic, and it's coming from this master because it has the same name. It might sound confusing, but you'll see in a second exactly how that works like. Creating components saves you time and ensures that all of your components that you use in your design, like buttons, stay consistent across all of your designs. And you can find your components by going over to the Assets panel, and then they will be displayed under Local Components list that you can also change to, like, let's say you have a ton of different components and you want to make them like easily visible. So instead of a preview, you might want to use a list view. So I can click on this component and it will be automatically selected on my canvas, and I can also drag it out from here, and then I will use an instance of this component. So a dynamic component with a hollow icon. One more time, to access your components, you go to your assets, you type in the component you want to look for, button. Okay, I can show a preview, and then I'm dragging it out on the frame, and that's how I can use it. Now, all new assets will be added to this asset panel and to your local components, and you'll be able to drag them out or search for them and add them into your designs. So once we have these master components, let's copy and paste a few of these, and you can also make copies of your dynamic components just like that. Let's say these buttons we're using all across our designs, and we decide that we want to make some changes to them. For example, I want to change the stroke of my buttons here. So normally I would have to go into each one of them and then change the stroke and keep going like that until I have all my changes created manually. And as you can see, if I make changes to one of my components here, nothing changes across all of them. The thing that I have to do is to go to my master first and then make changes here. So let's say I want to go for I want to create a blue button without a stroke. And you can see here, we already manipulated the some style settings on this button, and making changes to it didn't overwrite all of the changes on this button because we already added our stroke, and then we made it different from the rest. To reset all the settings that we have set on a specific component, you can right click, and then you can select reset all changes, and it will all changes will be reverted to reflect the master component here. Okay, so let's use this header as an example for our components here. One more time, I'm dragging out my button. I'm clicking Option Command plus K to add a master component. I will do the same with my menu link. Maybe go over to the layers just so you see what I'm selecting. I'm clicking Option plus Shift to move it out. And this time I can click on this Create Component button, and I want to also drag out my logo and then make a component out of my logo. So now I have 3 master components. But to make all changes work, I need to go over to select this button and then click Command plus C to copy it. And then I want to go into my button here and click Shift Option Command plus V to replace it with this new dynamic component. And I also want to do the same with my menu link. So once again, Command plus C. I don't know what Keycaster is not working, so you have to listen to me right now. Command plus C, and then clicking into the menu links, not the link container, the menu links. And then I'm also clicking Shift Option Command plus V to replace my selection. I will do the same with my logo. So one more time, Command plus C, and then Shift Option Command plus V. So now I have my components replaced with my dynamic components. And what I could also do is now that I have these in place, I could copy my entire header container. So Shift Option and dragging out, and I could make a dynamic component out of my container here. So if we go down, all of this will be dynamic now. So I can now also copy and paste my container component by clicking Command plus C and then Shift Option Command plus V. And now you'll see that my entire container is dynamic now. So if I want to make changes to my buttons or my menu links, they will be reflected both on this master container, because these are parts of like the smaller molecules. And this is how we build a design system, and we'll be building a design system in part 2 of this series. But for now, this is all like an introduction to the topic. So I'm clicking on my button, and let's say I want to make it blue instead of black. And as you can see, everywhere where the button is already placed, the changes will be created automatically. And for example, we could have as many desktop frames on our designs as we want to. So let's say this could be a home, this could be our about, this could be our pricing page. And everywhere we have the dynamic component and we make changes to that, the changes will be reflected all over our design. So I want to change the style of my text here. So I'm clicking on my menu link, and to automatically click into every element that you have in your auto layout, just click on Enter. And now you will select all of your elements within that container. I want to change the general sans to Enter. And as you can see here, the login will not be, and login and pricing will not be aligned, because we have a fixed value here for our horizontal resizing. So the bounding box is not enough to contain my text here. So what I can do now is I can go over to my width setting and change this to auto width instead of fixed size. And this should fix it. Yeah, and then the spacing will also remain the same. I might also want to change the weight to, let's say, regular, and then I would want to change the fill to something a bit lighter. And as you can see, all of the changes appeared on my designs here, which is pretty neat if you think about it. Like, you can really save a lot of time by building reusable components and then adding them to your designs. And that's a practice we'll use a lot when building out our designs and components libraries and design systems in future lessons and part 2 of this series and future courses that we'll create. Now that you know the basics of components, let's talk about some best use cases of them in Figma. So like I said, one of the best use case for the components is to create a library of common UI components. So if you were working on a design, you would want to put all of your components into a separate page, and we can go over it right now. So let's say our page would be designs. We would also want to add a page called components or components library. And now what you would want to do to keep your master components separate, you could select them all, right click on them, and then from this drop down, go over to the move to page and then move them to your components library. And just like that, they will be removed from here and placed somewhere onto our design. Remember the shortcut from our first lesson about navigating, click Shift+1, and you will automatically zoom into your selection. And yeah, you can make changes from here and they will be reflected all over your designs. And let's say if you wanted to add your new assets here, all of your assets will be visible. So if you need to add a new header container, you just drag it out, add your own to frame, and it will be available for you just like that. So I hope you found this short introduction to components helpful and that you know a bit more and you're a bit more comfortable with the whole idea of components. Now you know the drill already. If you want to practice some more, open your homework assignment and go over to module 5, lesson number 3, and complete this short homework. You can play the solution at the end if you are lost, and I'll see you soon. Happy designing, my friend.